another giant ship hitting another giant bridge.
What is happening?
Now, I've never seen this in my lifetime. Okay. I mean, I'm 62. I've seen it happen now 2 times. And it's been recently. I don't know about you, but I think there's a problem. Now, what's happening? 2 ships, 2 major American bridges, less than, year and a half apart from each other? Both ships lose power. Now, we've seen this happen before. We've seen other ships lose power. I'll get into that here in a second. Recently, Baltimore, March 2024, Francis Scott Key Bridge collapses into the river because a Singaporean cargo ship, the Dali, loses propulsion, slams into the support column. 6 workers are killed. The whole country watches in shock. And you're like, wow, that doesn't happen. Well, then again, on Saturday, it happens again. A Mexican Navy tall ship loses power while departing New York Harbor. It drifts straight into the Brooklyn Bridge. 2 sailors die. Dozens were injured. The masts shatter like matchsticks. The Brooklyn Bridge, an icon of American resolve, shakes, but apparently everything is okay. Now, first of all, our condolences to all of those who were on the ship that lost their lives or were injured. We feel for you. That was an awful. They were all standing there on the masts. Can you imagine standing there going, we're not stopping. We're not stopping. I got to get down. And then when the masts go down, you saw them. They were all entangled in the ropes and they were just hanging there. Some of them upside down. It's nuts. Okay. So the reason for that one, we're told again, power. Okay. Maybe once, maybe twice. Both on foreign vessels, both involved with high-profile American infrastructure. Now, we've been talking the last hour about trust. And I'm sorry, I just don't trust that this is, if this is what it is, then we should stop having computer systems run everything on these ships. Okay, that's the only reason why you could say, well, no, we just put in these new computers that are running these ships, and nobody's ever seen computers run things like ships before, and we don't know if they're safe and stable yet. Then don't put them in the ship. If there's a problem with that, why don't we know I can't use my phone on an airplane. Why? Because the FAA couldn't come up with a reason. We had a plane crash. I think it was in Long Island years ago. And they're like, cell phones. And we've been being told to turn off our cell phones and everything else because it interferes with the navigation systems on the plane. It does what? Excuse me? What does it do? Nobody believes that. Okay? That's not true. It's just not true. How come if you've ever flown in a private plane, they don't tell you that? Is there something special in private planes that makes their super navigational systems so much better than it is on a commercial airliner? No, it's a lie. It's a lie. We need to rebuild our manufacturing base. And American Giant started doing that 14 years ago. They make clothing here at home with American cotton, American hands, and American heart. It's quality you can feel. Go to American-Giant.com/Glenn. Get 20% off your first purchase. That's American-Giant.com/Glenn. So, what's wrong with these ships? Do you remember the ship that also lost power and then made like a loop-de-loop? And then slammed into another ship. It was, I think, off the coast of maybe Singapore. You remember that? Happened about 3-4 years ago. It was like this insane thing where we lost power and navigation. And it was 2 like large, like freighters. No, I think it was a freighter and a naval ship. And it just pounded into the naval ship. We lost power and lost navigation. Okay. All right. There is something happening in the pit of my history section of my stomach that says, this isn't This isn't right. Warning bell, okay? What history would tell me is these are shark bumps, okay? You know what a shark bump is? I worked with Anderson Cooper one time, and we were sitting, getting ready to. He was doing his show on CNN. I was doing my show on CNN Headline News, which is strangely has better numbers now than any show on CNN currently. But anyway, so I'm getting ready to do my show on CNN Headline News, and Anderson walks in, and he was always very kind, to me, and we had a nice relationship.
Yeah, he always was.
Yeah, and he said, "What'd you do this weekend?" And I said, "I took my kids, I don't know, to the park or whatever." I said, "What'd you do?" And he said, "I went shark diving off the coast of Australia." I was like,
he had a lot of those weird stories.
Yeah. And I was like, "Oh, okay. Yeah, I haven't done that." I said, "Why would you do that?" And he said, "Well, we were going to make a doc on it, and then something happened." And he said, "So I just, I wanted to be in the cage and have the sharks, to see the sharks." And I'm like, okay, I could live my whole life without ever doing that. And he said, then when they pulled the cage up, I'm, coming out. And he said, it was pretty wild when you were in the cage. And he said, then I see the captain of the ship, as the cage is coming up, he's getting ready to dive. And I said, what are you doing? And he said, I'm going to go dive and just be with the sharks for a minute. Okay, what the hell's wrong with these people? All right, maybe it's all the blood is constantly, it can't get to their feet or anything. It's just all coagulated in their head because they're upside down. What is wrong with you people? So he says, well, I'd like to go with you. And he said, oh, this is only for experienced divers. And Anderson said, I'm an experienced diver. I got all my license, everything else. And he's like, oh, okay. So come on, we can come with me. Now, Anderson didn't have any of those things. He's not an experienced diver. This was his first time. He puts on everything, and he goes off the back of the ship with the captain. Just before they do that, the captain says, by the way, they're going to come up to you, and they're going to bump into you. Do not move, because if you do, they'll eat you. And he said, I'm sorry, what? He said, don't move. They bump into things to see the reaction. If you're just a floating, bag of something they don't want to eat, it won't move. But if you move, they'll eat you. He said, oh, okay, all right. Now, this is, again, the time that I take off, the eye mask, and I'm like, okay, have a good time. I'm staying here. He goes down. And the sharks do just that. And I'm sitting here, listening to him, and he's like, oh, you wouldn't believe what it's like to have one of these great whites just come up and just bump you in the chest. And I'm like, nope, I can't imagine that. I may not have moved, but there would have been poop in the water everywhere. Okay? So, how did I get here? So I think what's happening is these are shark bumps. These are, I don't know, country, multiple countries, I don't know. Can we collapse the navigational system on ships? Can we cover it up enough? And can we take control of ships and just let people in the upper end know, oh boy, look what they're doing? I think that's what this looks like. This looks like the opening act to a war, a different kind of war, but a war, one that we're not even allowed to call a war yet. And what chills me the most is the silence on this. The mainstream media, they didn't blink on this. Government assures us nothing to see here. Same experts that tell you, that men can have babies are telling you it's just a coincidence. I'm sorry, I don't. Can you show me exactly how this is happening so many times? Because maybe it is. But if that's true, maybe we should stop with that kind of navigation system on these ships. Maybe it's not ready for prime time. And why does it always seem to lose power and navigation right around an American bridge? Right around a naval ship, a U.S. naval ship, or 2 U.S. bridges. Why is that happening? Now, there's a shipping giant. I guess it's Maersk, M-A-E-R-S-K, right? Maersk. Shipping giant had its entire global system shut down by ransomware in 2017. Did you know that? The U.S. Navy have had ships colliding multiple times since 2016. Again, what was blamed? Steering loss or loss of power. Ask the Port of Los Angeles, which just last year was under daily cyber attack from foreign adversaries. You don't need a missile to hit us anymore. You need somebody with a keyboard and some bad code. And let me ask you this. What kind of war doesn't even need intent, just capability? Because when infrastructure is digitized, when our bridges, our tugboats, our radar systems, our engine controls all depend on centralized code, it doesn't take a villain in a cape. It takes a firmware update or a rogue packet of data from a USB stick. Remember, before 9/11, the intelligence community had over 40 separate warnings that something big was coming. They just didn't connect the dots. Well, we have several dots here, and they all seem to lead to the same thing: power or steering loss. Somebody should solve that if it's a software or a hardware problem. Solve that. How come I'm not hearing about that? You can't just keep saying, yep, steering loss, and then we just accept it. No, this is national security. Is anybody serious about national security? Anybody? Now, I'm not saying this was an attack. But this is exactly what it would look like if it was. This looks like a shark attack, or a shark bump, except this time the shark is seeing how you're going to move. By us not moving, it makes that foreign shark, or whoever might be doing it, more apt to eat us. If we move and harden things, it makes them less apt to eat us. So in a shark bump with a real shark, you don't move. In this particular scenario, where it could be a foreign adversary giving us a shark bump, you must move. And I haven't seen anything yet. We need cyber forensics on all of those boats, independent experts, not just the insurers or foreign governments, independent experts. We need an immediate national audit of our port, bridge, and maritime infrastructure vulnerabilities to electromagnetic or cyber interference. And we need people to at least start investigating the possibility of hybrid sabotage. I believe we're being tested. Are we going to do the same thing with the 40 things that happened before 9/11 and not connect the dots? Or are we going to go, it might not be that, but we should be all over this.